International Wealth Builders Radio Show with your host, Dr. Sharon Barnes. I'm here with Lucia Solis from Guaranteed Rate Affinity, and we're talking about the new CalHFA Dreaming Equity Share Homeowner Assistance Program, which is a mouthful, but it's a very aggressive program, as you mentioned in the last section. And we're going to continue to talk about requirements and how you can take advantage of them. Lucia, I understand that that the FICO score impacts like the debt to income ratio. We have
Yeah,
buyers who have had problems qualifying for loans in the past because their debt to income is too high, or maybe they haven't been able to save up to 20%. So, can you kind of touch on that as you continue to share with
sure,
us some of the issues and tips you can give us from your experience this week?
sure. Uh, in the program requires a minimum of 660 credit score for low income. They have to be below the Fannie Mae income 80% AMI and to go that low. So very few will qualify in that segment. But if they have over 680, they can qualify with being moderate income. And then if they have over 700, okay, the way it works, I'm sorry, the 700 credit scores allow the individual to go up to 50% debt ratio. What that means is if you make 6,000 a month, that all your debt cannot exceed 3,000. But you have to have a credit score of 700 for that. If you're below 700 and no lower than 660, the debt ratio is 45% of the income.
Okay.
Okay.
And then if people aren't say quite there yet that they need to work on their credit, do you have a program or do you have anything that you
We
recommend
do.
for
We
them?
do.
Okay.
We what we do is we do a soft pull on the credit. And so with the soft pull, we're allowed to look at their credit and kind of go into a system called Credit Expert that allows us to play with their credit. Like, what if they pay off this credit card? What if they pay down this? What if they, it's a what if scenario to see how they can boost their scores. Um, yeah. So,
So if they're interested in buying here in say the next 6 months or less, or want to take advantage of this program, it behooves them to get in line right away to see where they stand, whether they can qualify today under the requirements, or whether they need some type of assistance and plan to get where they need to be with their FICO score in order to take advantage of the program.
so I did two yesterday that they were, one was 585 and the other one was 605. And by guiding them on what they should pay down and how they should structure their debt, they were able to both get approved in the program once they do all that. So yes, the first thing is to apply. It's a soft credit pull, meaning you will not see an inquiry, will not impact their scores. So it doesn't hurt them to do that. And then we kind of advise them if their credit has needs a lot of work, then we would recommend a credit to deal with a credit company that can better guide them.
Okay. Well, if they're in that scenario, since we're talking about them, do you have a portal or a way they can contact you to start that application process or to get that short
Sure,
pull?
absolutely. They can call me for one. It's 562-587-2669, or they can go on the website, my website directly to apply. It's grarate.com/Lucia Solis. Here's what I'm going to say. For Riverside County, the maximum income in order to apply is 173,000. So if you make over that, you don't qualify for the program. The maximum loan purchase price is 726,200. So that's the Fannie Mae conforming loan limit, and that's as high as that we will go on this program for Riverside County. For other counties, we do go higher.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to mention that the program allows to give you 20% down, but you have to pay your closing costs if you use a 20%. If
Okay.
you do not have enough for your closing costs, we can do 17% down and give you 3% to help you with the closing costs. However, if that's the case, you're now in a position where you will have private mortgage insurance for that added for
Okay.
not having the 20% down.
Okay, so 20% does away with the PMI, with the private mortgage insurance. And also, this is like similar to what we run into sometime with the VA loans that says 100% financing, is that you still need to come up with the earnest money or deposit to start escrow. So, and working with a realtor like myself and finding a home and getting an offer accepted and opening escrow. But I understand that earnest money to open escrow can be applied towards the out-of-pocket costs for the closing at the end. That extra money
Yeah.
you were just talking about, correct?
And there are some added fees on this
Okay.
program. So it's important we discuss that with the buyers when they try to apply.
Okay,
Um,
so they will have to come out with some money because if we think about 80/20, 20% down payment, 80% of loan, it sounds like 100% financing, but you're saying there are extra fees and there are funds that they would have to come out with. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've been seeing with the applicants here in the last few days?
well, typically, most of my applicants have enough for the closing costs,
Okay.
but if they don't, then we have to consider the PMI and qualify them with that. So that reduces their ability, their potential purchasing power because now they have that extra expense.
Okay. So would you
So,
say like $10,000 is kind of what they need to have, or
well,
depend on the purchase price?
I'm gonna give you an example because I have
Okay.
one in escrow right now and another one opening escrow.
Okay.
And the purchase prices are in Orange County. Their condos 500,000, and the closing costs are roughly $15,000.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. All right. That's
so
good to
just to
know.
give an idea.
That's good to
Um,
know.
Now, I wanted to cover property types. I think this is
Okay.
really important. Important to you because I
Yes,
know
as
you're,
realtors, yes, and dealing with accessory dwelling units, I
yes.
did understand that
So
it has to be, maybe single unit, and it could have an ADU on
maybe,
there, but we can't
yes.
build it up from the ground. So, yes, tell us about
Yeah,
that.
so it's condo, single family, manufactured home on permanent foundation, not in a park.
Okay.
Um, Also, single family homes with an ADU, as long as it's legally considered a single family home.
Okay.
So not converted to a 2 unit. Sometimes when they add the ADUs, they classify them as 2 units. And hopefully, if a buyer is looking at a property with an ADU, first thing to do is look up how it's classified.
Okay, and if it's classified as a single family with an ADU, then
You're
they can
good.
they can purchase it.
Yes.
If the structure is, say, not fully permitted, are they allowed to bring it up to permit since it's existing, or does it need to be fully permitted on the
If it's done
structure?
in a workmanlike manner, we don't really require the permits,
Okay,
but the buyer needs to understand the consequences of not having the permits.
okay,
You
but they can take care of that once they
know, Mhm.
purchase it or whatever. But they're able to purchase
Long
it
as
with the 20% assistance.
exactly, as long as it's done in a workmanlike manner, we're good to go.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
So, are there any other tips you can give us regarding the program or the
Well,
questions
I
that?
can tell you about income. We want
Okay,
to see employment. Typically, they have to have at least a 2 year history, work history. So they can have a new job, but we want to see that they have been in the workforce at least 2 years. If they're students, recent graduates, we will work with their transcripts. If they were in college and graduated and have now in the workforce for 6 months,
right.
and we'll offset the work history with school.
And then with the work history, it's in the same industry, right? I mean, if it's a teacher and she's relocated to another district, but she's still a teacher
Fine.
type of thing,
That's
it's just
that's
not
fine.
changing industry. So you would be like in a new industry for 6 months, and
Typically, they don't really put a lot of weight on. They just want to primarily see that they've been employed.
okay.
The consistency of employment. It doesn't really matter the job function in itself.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, with what we've been going through the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes in where people work or the type of work and adjustment. So
Yeah, and
as
they
long,
they can have a gap of up to 6 months, but they need to have an explanation. So
okay,
gaps are allowed as well.
okay, and
So
and they're really still qualifying for a conventional loan, which allows them a little bit more negotiation power with the seller. Correct?
so yes, and what's nice is that we're qualifying to Fannie Mae's guidelines, which are, very flexible. And also, when we take an application, we have to share it with CalHFA, but they do not they allow us to underwrite the income. What they're looking at is doing the search if they're truly first time buyers, and they're looking at the property to make sure it is a single family or condo, or those are the things that they're going to look at when we give them the file, but not necessarily dissect the income. That's up to the lender to make
Okay.
sure it fits Fannie Mae's guidelines.
Okay. So if they're not first time buyers or don't qualify, we still have FHA and other products by
Yeah,
which they can purchase a home, but they still have to come up with that down payment, and FHA would require the PMI. So we're talking about higher monthly payments as well.
yeah. They
Okay.
they and they can also qualify conventional, but they'd have to put a minimum of 5% down,
Okay. So they're 5% conventional if they're non
or three
first
and a
time
half
buyer.
FHA. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's great to know. Now you say your phone has been ringing off the hook. So can you tell us some of the questions, some of the questions that you've been answering one on one that you would like to kind of broadcast to the masses here?
I think the question is, what's the catch?
Okay.
Everybody wants to know there's got to be a catch. Well, nothing's free. So you do share in the equity. And then we get, oh, so there is a catch. Well, it's really you're building wealth without having to use a lot of your own resources. So I don't and personally think it's a great program. There's very little restrictions. And if it's only sharing in equity, I think people need to take advantage of it. The other thing is I'll go into details how to get into the program, but the funds, there's limited funds. So it's important that whoever's interested and should get approved immediately. And the funds do not get reserved for the applicant until they find the home. So it's not just getting approved. It's, the steps are these. First, you apply and you allow us to get you pre-approved. Once you're pre-approved for the program, there is a home buying course. If you haven't done it yet, you could do it online. It's through CalHFA and it's $100. And you go through the course. And once you're done with the course, you schedule an interview. The interview that they do is to make sure that you understand, what's your budget, how much you make, what's your house payment going to be, are you going to be able to afford it? Basically, they're walking through the steps of a budget for you and making sure that you understand. And so once you complete the interview, they give you a certificate. In
Okay.
addition to that certificate, which is the first time homebuyer certificate, you also have to go online to CalHFA and take the shared appreciation course, which is 20 minutes, and it's quick. And they just want to make sure you understand what the shared appreciation entails. And
Okay.
then you get a certificate for that. So you get pre-approved, you have your two certificates, you find the home, and then we reserve the funds. We lock the loan and reserve the funds. The rates do change. So this whole week they stayed flat, but they typically changed according to the market.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds great, and we're going to talk about a little bit how that the buying process looks like or home search, because a lot of time as a realtor and dealing with buyers, they don't understand that they need to be pre-qualified and to have that documentation when we submit any offer. Okay, so before we can actually submit an offer to be considered by a seller, we have to prove that you are qualified. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk a little bit more about the buying process, and Lucia's going to tell us about how we can apply the steps to take. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.